Asking the questions that matter, lighting the fire to scatter, dancing with thoughts that flatter, building the dreams we chase after. Whispers are turning to thunder, echoes are pulling us under, fascism stuck in the night, guiding us into the light, exercising the mind so bright, smart particles take flight.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me here for Jazzisms as we have another installment of the Kirk Conspiracy. We've got some updates regarding episode 3 of Candace Owens' docuseries on Erica Kirk, as well as some rumblings from all around social media and some updated moves regarding Charlie Kirk himself. Now, over the weekend, ignoring Congress and not getting their approval per the order of operations outlined in our U.S. Constitution, Donald John Trump waged attacks on Iran. I bring this up because this is something that Kirk had talked about. Remember, Erica Kirk and Trump Sr. talked about how, Kirk just had so many people's ears, most notably the sitting president. Take a look at what Kirk had to say.
We are just going to take out the Ayatollah. Oh, really? What comes next? What comes after regime change? Might be, we need a small number of U.S. troops to support the new regime. We have seen this play before. Regime change, you have no idea how this is going to work out. You have no idea. They are actively calling for regime change. This kind of analysis is not helpful. This kind of approach, this kind of argument, it has nothing to do with nuclear weapons at this point. This is now that we want to go all in and take out the regime. But what have we learned when it comes to wars, and especially wars in the Middle East? What you draw up on a whiteboard rarely happens. What you think theoretically is going to occur, there might be unintended and unforeseen consequences, especially when you're talking about a country 2.5 times the size of Texas and has 90 million people and was an ancient and great power with well over a dozen ethnic groups. You have underground Christians. You don't really have many Jews left in Persia, but also you have secular younger Persians. Who's going to run the country exactly, Lindsey Graham? This sounds like Hillary Rodham Clinton in Libya. Yeah, the Ayatollah is awful. But maybe he's one of the few guys that can keep that country together and not have a 90 million person civil war. So you have these two extremes. I honestly don't think the neoconservative extreme needs to be represented philosophically anymore. It's uninteresting to me. They've done a mess of Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, the entire Middle East, Ukraine. We know what the neoconservatives believe. I do think hearing out, and honestly, I agree with a lot of the I think isolationist is used as a pejorative, but let's just say restrained community. Take out the Ayatollah. Resist that temptation. That's not prudence. That's not self-control. That's something else talking. That's a zeal. And that very same zeal got us involved in a pile of garbage in Iraq. It all felt good with shock and awe in March of 2003. We're unstoppable. We're going to take Iraq in a weekend. Turns out, it didn't work that way. A lot of people died. A lot of Americans died unnecessarily. This is more Israel pushing for Iran. But is that America's problem? That's a question. I mean, maybe the answer is yes. Maybe the answer is, you know what? They were wrong about Iraq. They were wrong about Syria. They were wrong about Afghanistan. They were wrong about the Taliban. They were wrong about Libya. They were wrong about the Arab Spring. They were wrong about Yemen. They were wrong about the Arabian Peninsula. They were wrong about the 9/11 hijackers being Saudi Arabian. But hey, 10th time's a charm. This time we're actually right. Yeah, you're going to have to earn our trust on this one.
It's one of those times where the actual threat is so great that neoconservatives have to tell the truth. And you get a glimpse into their actual intellect, into their actual discernment, into their actual critical thinking, and a smidgen to their humanity. When they realize that the toll of actual people is so high and it could take out people that they love, respect, and most importantly to them, take out their income, they tell the truth. And he's absolutely right. Taking out the Ayatollah does what? We in the United States, we look at leaders as people. Well, until Trump, because now they're worshiping Trump as if he is a deity. In other countries, their leadership is written into theologies. There is a deeper connection to these things. So it does not matter who is there. Their leadership represents something deeper. And a lot of times, the deaths of these people, when it's not seen as natural or in a natural progression of things, it's prophecy fulfilling, which further emboldens and strengthens and unifies. And it's not going to do what you think it's going to do. Because specifically, and we'll get back on solely the Kirks, but Trump and BB from Philly, Benjamin Netanyahu, believe that they can essentially have their way if they eliminate the leader in Iran right now. Like, oh, if there's a regime change, yeah, it's not how that's going to go. But we shall see. Now, like I said, there's a lot to cover from all around the internet. Let's start here. The Department of Education hangs Charlie Kirk banner outside DC building. The face of slain conservative commentator Charlie Kirk is among several banners now hanging outside the Department of Education's building in Washington, D.C. Now, what were they saying about educators and indoctrination? I can tell you the average educator does not have the budget nor the time to put together something like this. And what do you think images like this are going to do to not just young minds, but minds, period? What message do you think is going to be conveyed? In addition to the banner of Kirk, others installed on March 1st include historic figures like Benjamin Franklin, Martin Luther King Jr., and Catherine Beecher. Alongside the notable faces are also banners referencing America's 250th anniversary, including one that reads, "Empowering our states to tell the stories of our heroes in American education." What is Charlie Kirk a hero of? An instantaneous, a spontaneous trait? Kirk, 34, an ally of President Donald Trump, was shot and killed on September 10th while speaking to students at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. The suspect, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, has been charged with aggravated murder and other felonies in Kirk's death. And it's amazing that no one from Turning Point has been discussing this. Erica Kirk has not been discussing this. There hasn't been like a rallying to go and support, to go to the courthouse, to petition the court. Nothing. No one has called for updates on this. We are proud to honor visionary leaders whose contributions have shaped the future of education for generations. Their works reflect Benjamin Franklin's timeless belief that the investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Savannah Newhouse, the Education Department's press secretary, said in a statement to USA Today. Charlie Kirk led a movement that pushed the youth away from education. The neoconservatives, the upper echelon, are intellectual elites. They're college graduates that are trying to convince everyone beneath them in this pipeline not to become college educated. but okay. The statement continued, as our country marks an historic 250th milestone, this moment invites us all to join in the pursuit of fostering educational opportunity that empowers every learner to rise, contribute, and help shape a brighter future for generations yet to come. Yet, you all keep telling us that we don't understand Charlie Kirk and to watch his content start to finish. And when you watch his content start to finish, his whole thing is that we don't need higher education. The banners of several prominent figures, including Kirk, are hanging outside the Department of Education's building on Maryland Avenue in Washington, D.C. In addition to banners of Kirk, Franklin, King, and Beecher, there are also banners displayed of Booker T. Washington and Anne Sullivan. Except for Kirk, all of the figures have prominent careers as teachers or academics, and Kirk is well known for being owned by his own fan base and others. Turning Point USA does their own clip farming. They aren't even clipping him where he appears to be knowledgeable. Actually, there's no way to clip him that way. Kirk has never won a debate. He got paid for degradation cake. Even when he went across the pond to Cambridge, what got noticed was him getting his proverbial ass handed to him. Hey, Chuckles. Nice to see that you could join us tonight. But here we go. The new banners outside the Education Department facility come after large displays of President Donald Trump were installed at other government buildings. Why is it that the least educated amongst the superior race, you know what? Never mind, answer my own question. Well, yeah. Now, before we go any further, I know it's going to be hard to believe, but bear with me. Never voting again in a national election. Charlie Kirk fans are flipping out on Trump. Here's the thing. When people were begging us to have empathy for someone who had empathy for no one else and literally called for what happened to them to occur in the way that it occurred, so many of Charlie Kirk's sycophants told everyone, go back and watch his content. Go back and watch his content. You can't just watch the clips. Go back and watch everything. Watch everything. Guess who else did that? His fans. His fans went back, and there was a period of time, understandably, where there was a gap. These people had gotten accustomed to a regular schedule of getting content from Turning Point USA, from Charlie Kirk. So to fill it in, and as a part of their grieving for some people, they went back and rewatched his content. This is what they came back with. Donald Trump's decision to launch an attack on Iran without congressional approval and then follow up with a continuing bombardment of the country is alienating an important portion of his base that helped him regain the Oval Office after his loss in 2020 to President Joe Biden. The attack, after promises that he would not engage in military adventurism, led to a resurfacing of an old post by Kirk, where the late founder of Turning Point USA, Tapusa, if you will, broke with the president after an attack on Iran last year. That is a clip, multitude of clips that played at the beginning. This is insane. Regime change will result in a bloody civil war, killing hundreds of thousands and creating another massive Muslim refugee crisis. Topping a leader is never as easy as you think. It almost always results in further involvement, a civil war, and chaos. Resist this, he wrote. And now with the president taking the country to war, some of Kirk's fans are doing just that. Posting on X, longtime friend and producer of Kirk's podcast, Blake Neff, added his voice to the chorus of conservatives who are breaking with Trump after the attack and added he is not the only one. Charlie was opposed to a regime change war with Iran, as was I. Wars by nature are expensive and unpredictable. They endanger American lives and can last far, far longer than anyone anticipates. Nevertheless, President Trump has elected for regime change in Iran, he began. As the American patriot, I must hope for the best. Trump's instinct is to avoid prolonged fighting, is it? Or is Trump trying to avoid prolonged fighting where he can be blamed for it? Let's not forget Afghanistan. We must simply trust that he has a strategy that will prevent both. Ideally, this will be our last Mideast war. Toppling the Islamic Republic would remove the last large hostile power in the region and let America finally disengage and focus its efforts elsewhere. If the president can deliver that, this will be a success for America, he added. Hopefully. Adding a cautionary note, he warned the president he must be prepared to make the case forcefully. Trump Vance ran on a peace platform and it was popular. Right now, some of my right-leaning friends are messing with me. F this. This is extremely depressing. Never voting in a national election again. And I want to focus on that because Republicans are good for that type of protesting. This is where I can say Republicans do protest correctly. Because people on the other side are like, screw it, I'm just not going to vote. It doesn't matter if I vote, blah, blah, blah. They're like, no, I just won't vote on this level anymore. You will not get my support on this level. And they are holding everybody at that particular level to account because it's like, oh, you only got reelected because we all came together and got you into that office, got you that little taste of power. We won't do it again. We will remove those votes. And we know how close a lot of these elections were for Republicans. Now, before we get into Candace Owens' third episode of her special Bride of Charlie, got two opinions that I have. First, that Donald has always kissed the hands of dictators. Well, yeah, he has. He has always wanted to be in that exclusive club. Second, the obvious distractions from there. But the Iran war has nothing to do with the Epstein files. It has nothing to do. People keep forgetting the multifaceted plans, if you will, that Trump had. Trump wants to be seen as a dictator. Yes. Trump also, the only time he is profitable is when he is in the Oval Office. He's not completely driven single-mindedly by the Epstein files. And there's more in the Epstein files than just sex crimes. I did do a breakdown of that today. There's a call for DEA files because there was also drug trafficking going on. So you may want to check that out as well. But take a look at this theory that somebody has. And right after that, we're going to go right into episode 3. And we'll start discussing episode 3 of Candace Owens' docuseries. Here we go.
The reason why you don't like Erica Kirk, or when you look at her, you go, something's not quite right here, is because Erica Kirk has sociopathic tendencies. And I can't diagnose her as a sociopath. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm actually just an accountant. But my father's a sociopath. Like, diagnosed sociopath. This isn't one of those situations where it's like my father was mean to me for a few times and now he's a sociopath. No, my father's a diagnosed sociopath with the upbringing and the pattern of behavior to prove it. And sociopathy is kind of like corn. You know it when you see it. You can't exactly point out why, but you know it when you see it. And it's the reason why she's not reacting in the way that we view as normal or acceptable when something is awful as what happened to her and her family and Charlie Kirk and all of that. That's why she's not reacting how you or I would deem acceptable or a normal reaction. Right? That's why she's not doing it. It's because she's not really capable of it. She's trying to mimic it, but she can't do it fully because she doesn't have those emotions like you or I. I can't say whether she loved Charlie or not. I can't say whether she's capable of love. I can't say if she had anything to do with it. All I can tell you is I've noticed patterns in her that line up with sociopathy.
And oh man, Loretta Abbas, or, Wallstad, Franz Fay, Guinta. Something ain't right. Too many LLCs, too many households, always lurking behind her daughter, shady divorce docs, curated content. Even the lawyer on those shady divorce docs, Rebecca Kay, may she rest in peace, but even she was involved with horse racing. Is everybody somehow maybe connected to gambling? I want to know. All I know is that with mom, the vibes are not vibing for me, okay? Lottery tickets flying in the air with her grandma, grandparents. Well, on Monday's episode, or I guess earlier this week, Wednesday's episode, we went through Lori and Kent's divorce documents, right? The only 2 out of about 6 or so documents that were available. And we determined that something wasn't right. 4 different dates to the alleged wedding between Lori and Kent, an unnotarized childcare agreement, plus a different date for Erica's birthday than the one initially listed in the Cincinnati News, November 22nd, across 4 sets of documents. But we cautioned people at home, like, hey, there's other docs. Therefore, it's plausible that those remaining documents made some necessary changes. Caution, I said, caution. But you guys don't listen. One of you guys went ahead and tore the caution tape down, sent to me all the remaining documents. And those were interesting. I'll have you know that Erica's birthday on all of them is November 22nd. Yeah, it is. Her name is spelled differently a few times too. Erica with the C. We'll go over that next week. Because what I want to talk about is a person that was in these documents. There was another person mentioned, someone who is listed as the witness to these shenanigans. That's how I am going to hitherto refer to the divorce documents, the shenanigans. And that witness, his name is Richard Erpenbeck. I'll show you that here. Now, what I am blurring out on this document is it had his address, which allowed me to definitively confirm which Rick Erpenbeck we were speaking about. Who is the one that actually was the witness? Erpenbeck, by the way, anybody that's gone through following any of the people on X that have been deep diving alongside me, you will know that Erpenbeck is not an unusual name when it comes to Lori's businesses. This is actually the family that she uses many times to either notarize or to flat out incorporate her very many LLCs, regarding which I just want to say this. I'm never able to figure out what the heck the purposes of these LLCs are. What do these businesses actually do? Lori has LLCs coming out of her ears, okay? Lori's got a lot going on. And I want to say something else. Her professional backstory in and of itself, it's odd. It's kind of like Erica odd, to be honest, right? Lori Ann was a model. By her second marriage, we discover that she's working as a secretary. She then must have fallen and bumped her head and became a technological genius. There was no evidence of it, but then suddenly, whoop, she's arrived and she is just putting together tech companies, as many people do. I am waiting for that late stage technological brilliance to fall upon me because I can barely sort through my apps. I don't even know how to get to the App Store in a fast enough time. Let me take you through the litany of LLCs that she has filed. This is Lori, which feature Richard or Donna Erpenbeck as either the secretary, the incorporator, the notary across a 25-year period. Okay. Now, Lori filed for Eurotech in June of 1993. What does it do? Nobody knows, but Rick was featured. Lori and Rick filed for Eurotech International UK. Nobody knows. That was in 1995. She filed for Tech Metrics International in 1993. And in the available 1998 docs pertaining to it, Richard Erpenbeck is again listed as the secretary. Lori and Rick filed for Tech Metrics Limited. That's International UK in 95. She also filed for Virtual Registration. Okay, in December of 1999, you can see that we've got both Donna and Rick Erpenbeck had signed off on that. Also, does that say, yeah, there you go. You see Lori's signature. Everyone's kind of involved in getting these documents together. And then we know Lori files for AZ Tech. She goes to Arizona. We're in Europe. We're doing tech everywhere. That's in August of 1997. And she eventually renames that E3 Tech in 2017. Again, her, Rick, Donna, you can go through these docs yourself. That their names are on there. Now, look, I've been around. I've seen some stuff. I can tell you my instinct when I see a ton of LLCs and I don't know what the heck they're doing, especially when they're identifying themselves as tech, as a technology, that should be easily identifiable. Okay, you're a tech genius. In my mind, and I'm not saying this is the circumstance, but my unprofessional opinion, my mind goes to money laundering, right? Got to get rid of money. People got to start creating LLCs. Now you're thinking, because you're very sensible, hey, maybe that's not the case. There's no evidence for that. Good. Even the thought of that, it's just thinking about that would make us a demon. No, everything's above board, always. Now, Rick Erpenbeck, under that scenario, might just be a fantastic businessman. He certainly, like I said, is a longtime business associate of Lori's, following her from Ohio to Arizona. And also there's Donna Erpenbeck mentioned, who's also featured on the divorce docs, on her business docs. So it sounds like it's a family business. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to tell you a little bit about that Erpenbeck family. The Erpenbeck scandal, as it was termed, that went down between Ohio and Kentucky around 2002. Oddly, the exact year that Lori and Erica head out to Notre Dame Prep. More on that later. I'll have a timeline for you. So there was a massive home building company called Erpenbeck Company. It was, as it sounds, owned and operated by generations of the Erpenbeck family. The family had 4 brothers: Bill Erpenbeck, our boy Rick Erpenbeck, Gary Erpenbeck, married to Donna Erpenbeck, who we just saw as a notary. And we have Jeff Erpenbeck, plus their dad, Tony. You're never going to forget their dad, Tony, and their sister, Lori Ann Erpenbeck. Now, the Erpenbecks approached new homeowners offering to help them with construction, sometimes offering pathways for them to cut down financial fees pertaining to their new home ownership. Pay us directly, we'll handle the rest kind of a deal. Young people buying homes for the first time, but the homes, it turns out, were not being built. And their mortgages, it turned out, were not being paid either. Take a listen to this news clip.
Erpenbeck served 21 years after pleading guilty to defrauding banks of $34 million. That was back in April of 2003. So he was a home builder who funneled the proceeds from home closings back to his company and himself. So his crime left hundreds of home buyers on the hook for millions of dollars in unpaid mortgages.
I really don't want to have that clip undersell to you what went down. I just want you guys to understand what this case was about. It was about missing money, $34 million seemingly evaporated from well-meaning people who were trying to buy their homes. It was, like I said, Ohio, Kentucky case that was for the ages.
Sorry about that. My apologies. Like I said before, I am very familiar with the Erpenbecks and this. So just to put things in perspective, because this is a lot more egregious than what that little clip says. Hundreds of home buyers were left with unrecorded titles and faced foreclosures on their new homes. Several subcontractors went out of business due to unpaid bills. Now, the Erpenbeck Company, that's what it was named, was one of Greater Cincinnati's largest developers. It was led by Bill Erpenbeck at the time. They used a check kiting scheme to hide financial distress and stole roughly $33.9 million from lenders and homeowners. Bill pled guilty in 2003. And was originally sentenced to 30 years and was later reduced to about 20 to 25 years. He served his time in Florida and was released in 2024. It was dubbed the buried cash. In 2009, FBI agents dug up a cooler containing over $250,000 in cash from a Kentucky golf course, which Erpenbeck had hidden with a friend to use that money upon his release. Now, his family and co-conspirators are his father, Tony Erpenbeck, and he attempted to hire a hitman to kill federal officials involved in the case and was sentenced to an additional 20 years. He died in prison in 2018. And then his sister, Lori Erpenbeck, pled guilty to bank fraud in 2003 after wearing a wire to expose the whole scheme. Now, their banking connection, the scandal led to the downfall of the People's Bank of Northern Kentucky. The executives were involved in the fraud. So Bill Erkenbeck, who is now 63, once again, let me reiterate, was released from the Federal Bureau of Prisons May 24th of 2024. So just so you have the full encompassing picture of just how egregious this scandal was.
I am talking real courtroom drama, forged documents, shady subcontractors. Check out just some snippets from articles recapping this case. I'm going to get to this part. Lori Ann Erpenbeck was a standout character. Tells us that by 2004, Lori Erpenbeck seemingly had enough of her family. She already knew that her brother Bill had thought about killing her. So when Dad Tony offered to give her $500 for her birthday, she then turned the conversation to her testimony about Bill. She held her ground. No, she was not going to lie under oath. Tony offered her money to change her testimony about Bill. Lori told her lawyer about the conversation, and the FBI was looped in. She agreed to wear a wire to capture information. This is the sister. Over the next few days, she met with her dad and Bill as they tried to convince her to agree to a fake storyline. And then she started the fraud to help the company's cash flow, and that it got over her head. Then she let Bill assume responsibility. The FBI soon arrested both men. Oh, okay. Sister wore a wire. Let's read this portion. The proposed $1 million hits. Okay, Tony Erpenbeck, that's Dad, had been in a federal medical prison in Lexington for just a few months when he tried to hire someone to murder and kidnap the people connected with putting him and his son behind bars. He wanted then senior U.S. District Judge S. Arthur Spiegel and then retired Assistant U.S. Attorney Kathleen Brinkman killed. Tony also targeted an FBI agent's children. He told a would-be hitman to bury the agent's 3 kids in a casket with crackers, water, and an air pipe for 10 days. He recruited a fellow inmate about to be released from prison to commit the crimes, but the inmate flipped on Erpenbeck and wore a wire for the FBI. The recording caught Tony Erpenbeck offering to pay fake hitmen $500,000 in gold stock first. Then Erpenbeck planned to pay the man and another $500,000 from offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands after news of the kidnappings hit the newspapers. Oh, okay, here's another piece of just this case. This case is amazing. This is a $250,000 on the green. Bill Erpenbeck lost thousands of dollars when he ratted out his own friend in 2009. Oh man, this one goes on, and he asked his friend to put $250,000 to dig it out, dig a hole and put the money in there so that he had a little cash when he got out. Okay. Another personal favorite portion of mine from the news of that day is the notary testifying that Rick's brother Bill would sometimes ask her to notarize documents while the person involved was not even present, right? She said Bill Erpenbeck sometimes asked her to notarize documents when the people who supposedly had signed them were not in her presence. Oh, yeah, that's illegal. And it is exactly what I pointed out to you guys, having not known this whole story and background, not knowing that this Rick was going to come up in the documents that I couldn't access at the time. I said, something's not right here. I'm a notary up in New York. That jumps out at me. It seems odd that anybody would sign away their rights to a court case, a legal representation, without a notary being present. That just did not seem to me to be a clerical error. Anyway, documents in the courts absent notarization. It's not how court cases work. It looked to me like someone was looking the other way. Like somebody maybe knew the county clerk and was up to no good. Now, like they told you, like these newspapers are telling you, when things were going down, Lori Ann, sister, wanted to cooperate with the police. That was a no-no. You never go against the family. So they started threatening her. Then she goes into hiding until she gets a phone call from her dad, Tony. And her dad tells her, "It's the last time you might see me." She thinks he's going to commit suicide. So she runs down to the house, comes out of hiding, only to realize her brothers, Bill, Gary, Rick, they're there telling her, hey, okay, brothers are there. Lori doesn't care. Like you read, we went through already. She wears wire for the feds, meets up with dad again, yada, yada, yada. She's terrified Bill is going to kill her. The recording is played in court. They get him. They get Tony. Bill pleads guilty. He picks up additional charges for threatening to kill his sister. He's ultimately sentenced to 30 years in prison. He ends up serving 21 years after a judge later shortens his sentence. His dad, Tony, who had just been sentenced to 5 years and 10 months for bank fraud, with a concurrent sentence for 60 months for obstruction of justice. Well, he later then received another 20 years because, he tried to hire the hitman to kill the U.S. district judge and the U.S. attorney and the FBI agent's children. Okay. That's the Erpenbeck family. Lori Ann, the sister, does a year, 1 count of bank fraud. Brothers Gary and Jeff get off scot-free. Rick Erpenbeck, the youngest of the clan, Lori's Erpenbeck, agrees to let go of his Kentucky legal license, but he otherwise avoids any charges because his name was not on the business. But he did have to testify. And throughout his testimony, we learn that one of the big mysteries of this case was why his father, Tony, had transferred so much money to LLCs that were under Rick's control. We can read this together. Here we go. In his deposition Thursday, Rick Erpenbeck testified, "You'd have to ask my dad. Actually, what was in his head? I saw it as a good investment. He had already always, helped the other boys out from the beginning. I was the one who worked 2 jobs, 3 jobs through college, 2 jobs through law school while he was helping out, the other boys, the Erpenbeck company. And he wanted to give me the opportunity to purchase these assets." That's, they say right there, the biggest question to be answered is why Tony Erpenbeck agreed to shift so much money into Rick Erpenbeck's control. Yeah, mystery. Rick made out real nice because he wasn't involved with the business. Just a hardworking kid. His family's just up to it. But you want to know what never happened? Who didn't make out nice? The homeowners. They never got their money back. Where did it go? Some of us, some of it, of course, went to Bill's lavish lifestyle. But where did the rest of the money get siphoned off to? It's just one big.
There is speculation in the greater Cincinnati area, even to this day, that a good chunk of that money is still literally buried around the greater Cincinnati area. From time to time, people do go on little scavenger hunts to go out and look for it, given that $250,000 was legitimately buried at a golf course and it was recovered. And out of that $250,000, none of it went back to the homeowners, the lenders, etc., that were extorted, the employees that abruptly lost their jobs, and all of that. But there also are rumors swarming, and there are women who claim that they are the ones that people are gossiping about, that a lot of the money preemptively went to mistresses. I do not know how true that is. But that is word on the curb in the greater Cincinnati area. Hey, Tristina. Hey, can we not? Thank you. Thank you for joining tonight. So that's what we have. That is what we have regarding the Erpenbecks. There's just a little bit more regarding this episode. Then we've got some more scuttlebutt regarding Miss Erica Kirk from around the web and more. So I'm gonna let Candace finish. Just want to drop in to give you a little bit more of the background information on the Erpenbecks from the greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area.
Scooby-Doo mystery. Anyway, the story goes in 2024, Bill Erpenbeck does get released from prison. Apparently, like it shows us, he attempted to stow away some cash. It's just like a never-ending scandal. Take a listen.
The Erpenbeck name was back in the news in 2009 when FBI agents dug up a cooler full of cash from Summit Hills Country Club in Crestview Hills. A friend had buried money that he received from Erpenbeck on.
Side note. When this story broke, when the story broke, because I know the anchor who did this story, she worked with a really good friend of mine who's a locally acclaimed journalist. I was so upset because the amount of times I have golfed at this court. And I was like, you don't tell me I was standing on $250,000 and I didn't know. Okay. All right. Okay. Wrong thing to be upset about in this situation. It is. It is. Okay. It is. But also, let me explain something to you all about the scheme that the Erkenbecks pulled off. I don't know. Actually, I do know how they pulled it off, because when you get to a certain price point, you get way too cocky that you aren't able. Real doesn't even try to recognize real, because I remember some of the commercials that were going on regarding this, and I'm like, how did you think this was real? So here we go.
The course next to Erpenbeck's former home. Erpenbeck had hoped to use that money after he got out of prison.
Now, why is this relevant? Why is this story relevant? Because it just seems to be the case that fraud surrounds Lori Franzfey, Wallstead, whatever you're.
And if you're wondering why he buried it with a, because remember, if you were here earlier, when I updated, he buried it with a friend. He and a friend buried this money. This is why the rumors are there has to be more money, like the friend must have went back and got his friend, why they buried it at the golf course and not on their property. Property was seized. Like, so many things were seized. And if you didn't catch on, the Erkenbecks were the biggest enemies of the Erkenbecks. The Erkenbecks were their biggest ops. Let's not forget that a father was willing to set up their daughter, his own daughter. Okay. Brothers were willing to sacrifice their sister and each other. So, and there wasn't really any place else that he could have buried it without it being highly noticeable and the likelihood of somebody getting it and him not getting the funds. And before you go, well, Taz, he didn't get the funds anyway. Yeah, but the FBI found the money, presumably because somebody snitched and took the money. I want you to think about, if there was more money buried, nobody said anything if they found it, which, not gonna lie, that is the smarter option. Get the money, slowly siphon it into the bank. This reminds me of the show Ozark. It does. I wondered for a while if the Ozarks was based on the Erkenbecker case, because people always think that Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, all that it's so boring and nothing happens. Way more has happened and is happening in that area. Just like I tell people, stop looking historically on that area of the country like they stood on the right side of history, like they was about that life. They weren't. Diabolical white folks. I kid you not. I kid you not.
Her name is. Fraud just seems to surround her, from her parents to her grandparents to the person that's doing her documents. It's just always around her, to her very many businesses, and nobody knows what they do. She just can't seem to get away with it. And do you know what's crazy to me? That despite her obviously being very much aware of who the Erpenbecks were, a case which included attempts of coordinated murder and kidnapping of children, putting them into boxes, Lori didn't seem scared. No, she didn't go, hey, maybe I just don't want to. I know it sounds like you really were just at school and you don't know why you got all this money, but I'm good. Yeah, I think if my lawyer called me, if I looked into Noah, and his family's in prison for murdering and putting people in boxes, or threatening to put people in boxes, and it's a trial of a century, I'd say, you know what? I can probably figure out how to incorporate my LLC by myself. It's really easy now. Everything's so easy these days. Like, I'm good, Noah. Thank you. Not Lori. No, not for Lori. She brings this guy in, and it just so happens to be, I know it's so coincidental, these are clerical errors. It just so happens to be that she's got some docs that look a little shady. And I looked through those documents, and no, it was not corrected. And no, Erica's birthday never does, even across different documents, seem to go back to the 20th. So Lori did not at all, I guess, have the impetus to think that maybe working with this family in any capacity was immoral demonic. What are some of the adjectives that they keep describing me as? Yeah, all of those. No, she was good. It's interesting that Lori sends Erica to Tesseract in Arizona, and the school then suddenly has to shutter its doors because it, once again, another financial scandal. Money evaporates. Nobody knows where it went. People think that it may have been a scam. That just keeps happening. It must be just so scary for Erica to see this so much in her life. I'm scared. I'm scared for Erica. That's why I'm doing this series. I'm scared for her. She's a grieving widow.
We have nothing to hide.
Now, keep in mind, Erica Kirk's birthday is now listed as November 20th. On some of those documents, her birthday was listed as November 22nd, if you weren't catching. She was born in 1988. Now, it has been alluded to that while her mother was working for the Erpenbecks in Cincinnati, that Erica went to Mount Notre Dame for a while. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But here's the thing. The Erpenbeck scandal was from 1999 to 2002. It was a check kiting scheme that defrauded banks, subcontractors, and home buyers of approximately $34 million. Okay. Mount Notre Dame, they say it's in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's in a suburb of Reading, Ohio, actually. Been past there quite a bit. It's very close to the bridal district of Cincinnati. It's a college prep school, and it is a parochial Catholic college prep high school for young girls. School is affiliated with the Sisters of Notre Dame de Namur, part of the Archdiocese of Cincinnati. But keep in mind, scandal was 1999 to 2002. Erica Franzvi, who she would have been back then, born in 1988. But then she went to the Tesseract school. Like, the dates don't match up for all these schools and when they were supposed. But as promised, from around the web and elsewhere, there is additional scuttlebutt regarding Miss Erica Kirk. These are theories, rumors, etc. Take them how you want to take them. Now, according to rumors, Charlie, before his death, had hired a private investigator and uncovered an affair. He removed Erica from the will and left all assets to his children. Erica Kirk currently claims that the kids are not Charlie's. Once again, this is allegedly, this is scuttlebutt, okay? Said that the kids are not Charlie's and is currently pregnant. We have not seen confirmation of her being pregnant. We discussed this rumor before on previous updates regarding the Kirk conspiracy, and I said I did track it down to being a Facebook post. Surprise, surprise. And it is heavily insinuated that Erica Kirk is currently working for the Trump administration, which, if you watch the State of the Union address here with me, they had her sitting in the nosebleed. So now, there are people who are saying that the children don't exist because they've not been seen. Once again, people don't have to show you their children, and there are plenty of people who have been very secretive about children. Until Iman and David Bowie's daughter was an adult, can you tell me how many times you've seen her? There is a former cast member of, Love Island. I'm not a fan of the show, but end of last week and over the weekend, I was bombarded with so many people going, oh my God, I didn't know such and such had kids. She just welcomed her second child. I didn't know she had a first. It is possible for people to keep their business offline. Yeah, I've seen the surrogate stories too, regarding that, and I'm like, I don't know why that's a scandal. If somebody wants to use a surrogate, use a surrogate. The only way it's a scandal is when people lie about using surrogates, which once again is your business. You don't have to tell us that you're expecting. Um, and no one knows if she actually killed him, if she was involved. There's just a lot of speculation, and it's because of how Erica is handling things, how she's answering things, and as I keep saying, how she preemptively just keeps lying to the public regarding information that nobody asked her about. Like, nobody asked about. So that is all we have currently regarding the Kirk conspiracy. As more rolls out, of course, I'm going to bring it to you. Sorry that this update came a little bit late, but on Mondays, I do have discussions on race. That is class that I do every Monday, so I did have to cover that. Also today, the depositions of Bill and Hillary Clinton did come out following here at 9:15 Eastern, 8:15 Central. We will start by going through Bill Clinton's deposition. So, exhausted, but we're going to get through this. As always, thank you for joining me here for Tazisms. If you're going to roll with me for the rest of the night, go get a snack, a beverage, take a potty break, and I'll see you in 20 minutes.